right, welcome everyone. My name's Mary Zupke, and you're here for the Being Well class, which is the survivorship class here at Living Well, and we're so excited to be here. This is our last class of this 4-week series, but you can always catch up on other ones, and I'm here with my colleague.
Hi, I'm Nancy Zawicki, registered dietitian with Northwestern Medicine. I work full-time at the Delmer Cancer Center, and today's class is cooking for one or two.
Yeah, so I'm also a registered dietitian, work with Nancy at the Delmar Cancer Center.
Yeah.
And we are, if you've been with us before, we're swapping up our routine today because we're making a casserole that needs to bake. So we're doing our recipe demo first, and we're making a version of eggplant parmesan. And so we're really excited. It already smells good in this kitchen here. So we're hoping for those of you at home, you can try this recipe at home. So the first thing we did was, a lot of people are intimidated by eggplant. So we thought we would use eggplant in a recipe because it's very high in anti-inflammatory properties. But what this recipe calls for is roasting it. So if you slice it very thin like this, it roasts really easily. And I did olive oil on both sides because eggplant really absorbs a lot of oil. So I did a nice brushing, and then I used the herb de Provence, so we didn't use a lot of salt. And then
We didn't use any salt.
we didn't use any salt.
Right.
And then just a little bit of pepper. So then we have started our layers here, but Nancy's going to talk about the other parts.
So our first layer is sauce. And so this sauce, we just used 2 cans of tomato puree. And then, well, first off, I just sauteed a whole onion, chopped up a yellow onion, sauteed it. I added about 4 or 5 even garlic cloves to give it some good flavor. And then I added 2 cans of the tomato sauce and just let it simmer. And then we added some fresh herbs, a little rosemary. We went out to the garden, some fresh oregano and fresh parsley and fresh basil. And then we did a little taste and thought, might need a little something. So I put a little slight sprinkling of cayenne, but normally we would use a little red pepper flakes. We just didn't have any. So just wanted to give it a little more oomph.
It's
and
not
then
gonna
black
be
pepper
too spicy,
too.
though.
Black
Yeah.
pepper too.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy, and I believe it is flavorful. So, all right, so we're going to do our next layer is, so we have sauce and then the eggplant, and we're going to add some shredded mozzarella cheese. Oh, okay.
That looks delicious.
Yeah, it smells good.
And we're just gonna kind of layer it like you would a lasagna, but the eggplant, and then we're gonna put a little Parmesan cheese too. It'll give it some dimension when you're eating it. And the mozzarella has that good melting point to give it that melting, which will be great. Okay.
Okay, then we're going to do some more sauce. I'll bring it closer so I don't make a big mess.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, it's nice and rich, the sauce.
Yeah, we do love getting these fresh herbs from the garden. So this is our fresh parsley. We had fresh oregano to use in our sauce today too, which is delicious. There's some fresh basil as well. And then at the end, we're going to garnish with these little cherry tomatoes that we picked right before class. So that's going to be super yummy too. And then we're just going to kind of keep layering. So I'm going to use this extra, I was going to almost said zucchini, because you actually could do this with zucchini as well. The eggplant is so nice and thin. We use 2 large eggplants, and you can see how they really cook down. So I'll just finish doing that with this. Hold on so I can pick this up now. And you do want them, they're about 8-inch thick. So that had them help them to cook really quickly, which was nice.
So it's interesting, we don't have pasta in here. It's just all vegetables and cheese, really.
Okay.
Okay, more sauce. Oh, no, cheese.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a little pasta?
Yeah, go ahead. No,
Okay, I'll
do
do
that
the
right on
mustard.
top. Yeah.
I might just use my hand here, just to sprinkle.
So you really could do this with any kind of vegetable, but also you can mix them. Say you had an eggplant and a zucchini, you could do both of those, and it's kind of a nice way to incorporate more vegetables, as Nancy mentioned. And so there we go. Sometimes my mom used to always add carrots to her tomato sauce too, chop them up. So don't hesitate to do that if you want it.
And you could even add zucchini, but you could even add mushrooms if you like mushrooms. Might be something too to give a little more oomph.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Or even red pepper roasted would be good.
Okay, so we'll put the last layer of eggplant on top here. The eggplant was really big, so I cut them in half, but you could just do circles if you wanted to. You don't really see that on top when you're doing it, so worry too much about the aesthetics. Okay, so we got all of our eggplant on there.
All right, we'll put more cheese. Just finish it up, and then I'm gonna finish up the sauce. We'll just use everything up. I don't want to waste anything.
Hey,
All right.
I'll just put the Parmesan on top.
Okay.
So the recipe says to cook for about 20 minutes. So we're gonna put this in the oven and then we'll start our presentation. And we've got some really good tips for cooking for 1 or 2. Sometimes during treatment, the person who's usually the cook is not cooking. So we wanted to give some tips for them. I actually had a patient today I was talking with that had that exact problem. So it's nice to kind of make sure that we're giving everybody tips. If you're cooking, you're eating less processed foods, and we know that that helps decrease risk of recurrence and also increases the anti-inflammatory properties of the food that you're taking in, which is really important to decrease that chronic inflammation. So, okay, do you want to put that under the cheese or?
We can just mix it in. So I'm just gonna do that chiffonade, like layer the basil and just do little slices. I'll just kind of put it all around. It doesn't burn.
You can kind of put it under the cheese.
Because it is in the sauce too, so.
Nice when you can use those fresh herbs. Like Nancy said, we don't cook with salt. To decrease inflammation, we try to cut back on salt and sugar and.
But I was thinking about it too, like last class was about the gut microbiome. So we do have onions in here and garlic, which, you know, contribute to the prebiotic effect. I think that's
Good,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah. We'll put a little
that's
pepper
good.
on top too, if that's.
Just get that basil underneath so it doesn't burn. All right, so now we're gonna stick that right in the oven and it's gonna smell really good in here. A lot of times we do get the question about plant-based diet. What does that mean? And do you only have to eat vegetables to be eating the Mediterranean way? And that's not true. It's more chicken and fish, more fruits and vegetables, whole grains, in moderation, low-fat dairy. So that's all part of Mediterranean. It's based on years and years of research that the people in that Mediterranean region are eating more healthfully and they're having less risk of disease. So it's recommended by the American Cancer Society and the American Institute for Cancer Research, also the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And it does emphasize plants, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, you know, sometimes the pulses like lentils and beans and things like that. But it also does include chicken and fish. Also, fresh herbs, as you heard us talk about today, using those when possible. And they have a variety of nutrients. They have the phytochemicals, the antioxidants, all of those micronutrients that we know we need. So cooking for one or two, we talked a little bit about why we are having this class. A lot of people that we are working with at the Cancer Center are making meals for one or two people in the home, but often the cook is not usually the cook anymore, and it's someone that might not know how to cook. So we thought we would give some simple tips. It's easy to look online now for recipes as well. And the concept that we talk about often is cook once, eat twice, or serve twice. So making a batch of chicken on the weekend and then using part of it in, maybe you just eat part of the baked chicken for your meal and then using the other part in a taco bowl the next day or putting it in soup. And the idea is doubling the recipe for something that you have for one night and then repurposing it into a delicious meal for another night. Plan your meals based around key foods, make them in larger amounts, and then you can use them. We talked last time about using roasted vegetables and making a variety of those and then using them in different recipes.
Yeah, way back before COVID, we used to do this big class, and one of the recommendations was, can you do a cooking for one or two? So we got 2 classes in and then COVID hit. But it was really popular because when you think of it, a lot of people raised their family and now they're home and they have to scale down, and it takes some practice to get it right. So what we did is, you can start with chicken. So you get your raw chicken, get so many pounds. You want to figure about a half a pound per recipe, like boneless chicken, to feed about 2 people. And then we have like 5 recipes that you can utilize that chicken for. So you can decide what recipes need the chicken cooked. Maybe you want to keep some of that chicken raw. So if you're going to cook it again the next day, then just keep it chopped up raw in a little container in the fridge. Or you can put it in a container and label it and just like save for one of those recipes and then just put the container in the fridge to thaw. So some of the recipes we did was like a chicken berry salad. So you had the fresh salad ingredients, berries, and then cooked chicken. So you can just take that little container out and you're ready to go. We did a chicken fried brown rice. So it's not really fried. I usually will just use a little olive oil and saute vegetables, kind of just clean out the refrigerator. A lot of them just go together: snow peas, carrots, onion, broccoli, cauliflower, all those, and do some brown rice and then add the chicken. In that, you can keep the chicken raw and then just cook it into it. So that's another thing. You can make fajitas using peppers. Peppers tend to keep a long time in the refrigerator, it seems. Just cook up some peppers and onions, have your fajitas, which you can cook that raw meat right then and there with the peppers and all, and then serve it on a tortilla, or you can serve it with like a brown rice even. And then a lemon chicken orzo. That recipe is on the website, the recipe corner, and that's really good. It's a 1-pan meal, so you use low sodium broth and cook the orzo, and then you add like tomatoes, I think like even some zucchini, and then cook the chicken in with it and squeeze lemon juice on it. So you want to just, when you do yours, figure out some recipes that require chicken, and then you can either cook up that chicken all and then divide it into little freezer bags for ½ pound in each. And then you can also just do some raw chicken, cut it up, put in the freezer, label it for whatever recipe. And it's a big time saver, because I think sometimes when you're trying to cook a meal, you're like, oh, now I got to thaw some meat to cook. It takes some planning. So that's really good. And then another class was the vegetarian. So cooking for one or two with vegetarian. So with that, you can utilize a lot of the canned beans like pinto, black beans, garbanzo, cannellini beans, rinse and drain them. We try to get low sodium beans just to help cut down on the sodium. And then you can also purchase like a 1 pound bag, like what Mary's got there is a pound bag of beans, and then you can cook it in either broth, low sodium broth, or water with a chopped up onion in a crock pot, and just add the whole thing, and you get some mileage out of all those beans. So you can make like a vegetarian stuffed pepper, which you could have a little roast the peppers first, like cut them in half like a red pepper. I usually brush it with a little olive oil and roast it. And then you can add brown rice, some black beans, corn if you like, some tomatoes, maybe a little sauce, and top it with cheese. Or you can do a stuffed sweet potato, kind of a similar mixture, black beans, corn, whatever vegetables. So roast your sweet potato and then fill it with those ingredients, including some beans in there. You can do a vegetable bowl, kind of what we've been doing, previous classes, and then a vegetable fried rice and even a vegetable quiche. I love to keep the supplies for vegetable quiche in my freezer. I sometimes will just use a frozen pie crust and thaw it, but and then I pre-bake it, and then I make my egg mixture, and I get chopped spinach that's frozen, let it thaw. And I've been now adding cottage cheese to the egg mixture because it really puffs it up. So I'll have the pre-baked pie crust. I'll put Swiss cheese down on the bottom. I'll put the drained chopped spinach on the bottom, and then the egg mixture, and then cottage cheese, and then just bake it. Usually like 400 degrees until it's not wiggly, and then have your slice, and then you can have it for a few future meals too, like lunch or even dinner. It's really good. Get a lot of protein that way. So.
Yeah, so Nancy had kind of alluded to the slow cooker beans. We love this recipe, and this kind of explains what it is. You'd really just take, we've been doing this a lot, especially since COVID. We weren't able to find things when there were supply chain issues. And so this has been great. So you just really plus it's very reasonable. Food prices are going up. You take 1 pound of black beans or whatever beans you want, and you rinse them, and then you put them in your crock pot. It says you can use onion powder, but I like to use fresh garlic and fresh onion. Just chop up your onion, throw it in there with pepper and some herbs, cover it with water, about 8 cups of water. And then you really just can cook that for probably about 4 to 5 hours. If you go past that, you want to stir it, just check it, make sure it's just on warm so you don't overdo it. But those are very flavorful beans. Your whole house smells like you've been cooking for days. And you can use those beans in so many foods, tacos, burritos, bowls, whatever you want. And it goes with any kind of protein. So you can keep those in the fridge, or you can do them like that and then freeze them. So great recipe to keep.
And Mary's right that it's 4 to 6 hours. We had a class here before COVID, and I came in early. I got the beans going and went to work, and there was no one stirring it. So after about 8 hours, it does kind of stick. So you do need, if you hit the 4 hours or 5 hours mark, you need someone to give a nice stir. And then lower the temperature.
You can use low sodium vegetable broth too, but actually I usually don't. We just use the beans and the onions and garlic, and it's amazing. Another thing is fish. A lot of people are intimidated by fish. We do a lot of recipes here with fish, as many of you know that have been here tasting the recipes with us. You can choose the frozen ones that come in like individual serving sizes. I think that's so nice now that there's so many different varieties. It used to be just fish sticks, and now you can get tilapia and cod and a lot of different types. Salmon fillets, frozen shrimp, whitefish, those are all great. Cook the salmon fillet and have it for a meal, and then save the extra one for the salad the next day. We often do that at my house. Grill frozen shrimp on a skewer, serve with rice and vegetables, and then you can save the shrimp to put in your pasta the next day. I like tilapia with roasted potatoes and vegetables too. Cooked whitefish and serve with a salad or vegetables and sweet potatoes, a great idea. Jamie Oliver has a one-pot cookbook, and he has a great fish recipe with either orzo or rice, and it's all easily done in one pot. You just cover it, everything cooks up nicely. It's like a 30-minute meal. So I would say check out some of his recipes as well.
So then the next one is cooking with meat. And so red meat would be beef, lamb, pork. And, if you've checked out the prices, red meat has really gone up. But we know that we should try to limit the red meat just as part of the Mediterranean way of eating. but you can still cook with it, but we try to use half the amount that the recipe calls for, and that way you can incorporate more vegetables into that. So, example would be if you made chili, don't use the whole pound of ground beef. You can use half and add some beans to it to get the protein, and then add your vegetables and make a really nice pot of chili, and it's flavorful, but it's just not like loaded with red meat. You can do a stir fry. I love to do that. Stir fries to me is, like I was saying before, I just put a little bit of olive oil, and then I just pull out like red pepper and snow peas and onion, whatever I have, cook those up. And then I set that aside, and then I cook like the steak, cut into smaller pieces, saute it, and then combine it all together. And sometimes I'll put, to give it a little bit of flavor, I might use that General Tso, is it? Tsao, whatever you say it. A little bit of that, not too much, but it gives it some good flavor. But of course, I'm adding onions and garlic for flavor too, and black pepper. And then I'll serve it with rice. Shish kebab, that's one of my favorite things to do if I'm entertaining. It's easy. I can cut up my vegetables like different red pepper, like assorted peppers, onion. You can put zucchini on there too. Sometimes I'll just skewer all the vegetables, and then I'll skewer all the red meat, and then I just slide it off into dishes so people can help themselves. But if you're trying to be careful with distribution, then I will just skewer with beef, the vegetables, so everyone gets a skewer. But it's so good. I marinate it in like kind of a vinaigrette. I make it myself, just like a little olive oil, little lemon juice, red wine vinegar. If you have a little red wine, you can put a splash of that. It's almost like an Italian dressing with seasoning like herbs. But I let it marinate overnight in that, and then I just skewer everything up and cook it on the grill. If you make a pasta sauce, and you want meatballs, make them smaller, like little 1-inch meatballs. Something I made recently, I made little meatballs, but I took string cheese and cut like little inch size or half an inch to an inch slices of mozzarella cheese, and I just formed the meat over the cheese, and then I baked them in the oven. They were really good. They had panko crumbs in it, breadcrumbs in it, and Italian seasonings and garlic. But if you just do the small amount, you can just portion out, just have a few. We actually keep a bag in the freezer of cooked meatballs. So, if, you get home, you're like, oh, what's for dinner? I can just, warm up some of those little meatballs and turn it into a dish. And then soups too are good, using a lot of vegetables, and then you can even just add some leftover meats and add it to your soups. Eggs would be another source of protein. So, if you do make a batch of hard cooked eggs, we usually say keep them in the fridge no more than 3 days. Still, I would just not keep a lot of leftovers on hand for too long. I still like to do the 3-day rule. But there's a lot you can do with eggs. Hard-boiled eggs, you can make an egg salad. You can make, just a nice salad and slice eggs onto it for extra protein. What's that French one?
Niçoise.
Niçoise. It's got eggs in it, which is really good. And
We use
spinach
eggs in our salmon wraps that we made.
Right, yeah. Spinach quiche, avocado toast topped with egg, tomato topped with scrambled eggs on a bed of lettuce. We were in Florida, and they served like a plate with chopped up romaine lettuce. They had a nice tomato, so tomato season's coming. And you could do tuna salad, or you can do an egg salad, or even scrambled eggs in it, and served it with avocado and tomatoes. It was really good. And then that shashuka, is good, but you want to try and cook your eggs a little longer. But that's a tomato sauce with peppers. You do right on the stove, a skillet, and then you crack an egg into it. But we'd want you to cook it a little bit more thoroughly. But yeah, eggs can really contribute good protein. And when it's teamed up with cheese, it really is higher in protein and very good and economical, because eggs have come down.
So when you are cooking ahead, you want to make sure that you're being careful about food storage. As Nancy said, we try to go 1 to 3 days for leftovers. And I know my husband hates it when I say, no, that's It's got to go in the garbage, you know, because you hate to waste food, but sometimes it gets pushed in the back. So it is good if you can have one of those erasable markers, so you know in the fridge kind of what you're doing. And also it's helpful if you put your leftovers kind of at eye level, so that when you open the fridge, you're like, oh yeah, I've got these. If you start pushing it way in the back and put your vegetables in front, you won't find them. Perishable cooked foods such as meat, poultry, fish, eggs, and dairy should not be left at room temperature for more than 2 hours. So when you're thawing them, I like to use a 13 by 9 pan or a glass dish and put my meat in there. So if anything, if there's any drippage or leakage from the package when it's thawing, you don't have to clean your whole fridge out, because that, especially with chicken, that could be a salmonella risk. And then, yeah, so make sure too that when you're having a casserole or big soups, that you don't just let it cool in the big container. You need to put it in shallow containers. And then once you put them in the fridge, you don't want to stack them, because then they won't cool off as well. So we have one of those drawers in the middle of our fridge for cheese and things like that. I'll often use that for cooling things, but you want to make sure they're fairly cool before you put it in the refrigerator, because that middle section, if it's in the middle of a big pot, then it could cause some foodborne illness. And then, yeah, so I think we talked about making sure you're being careful with that. And then as a general rule of thumb, extra refrigerated food that you cook should be used within 1 to 2 days. Leftovers are okay for up to 3 days. And 5 days are okay if you're not immune compromised, but I would say Nancy and I both go with more the 3 to 4 at the max stage, just because once we've cooked it, it's already been, you know, in the grocery store for a little while. You don't want to have any foodborne illness.
So like, say you're gonna purchase some chicken breasts, you can just cook them all up, have what you need hot with your dinner meal, and then the rest just, you know, cut it up cooked, save it for the next day to throw into a nice salad. But you want to use that amount of meat up within the 3 days. But it is a convenience, like what Mary was saying, cook once and get a few other meals out of it. So that's a nice time saver. And you can see from that picture, you know, you've got a nice chicken dinner, and then you can use it for sandwiches or salads. It's really good. And then rice, you can cook up a batch of rice and then divide it, let it cool, and divide it up into freezer bags and label and date it. And then you can take that amount and open it up and use it for a meal. You know, sometimes I'll get frozen rice from Trader Joe's. They have a nice little convenient where it's like kind of like 2 servings in a little bag, and you just microwave it. But then I was thinking, well, I could do that too. So, you know, you can. It's just sometimes it's the convenience and the time. But when you look at the package of that frozen rice, it's just brown rice, you know, and it's not really anything else. So you can do that.
It's a good thing to make ahead too.
Yeah.
If you do a double batch the night before, and it's pretty easy to save in the fridge, and then you could use it for a bowl the next day, or a burrito, or even a rice salad. In France, they make rice salads a lot, where it's rice and veggies and some protein, vinaigrettes. It's delicious.
So if you're making a bowl, rice works real nice in that. And I mostly use brown rice, but I've been getting some jasmine rice too. It's a nice little change up, you know, for whatever you're gonna make. So it's all good.
So if you're cooking for the first time, how do you pick your produce? That you might not know that. So we put together some tips. The key to long-lasting produce is how you store them. So making sure that you're choosing fresh, good produce at the store, making sure there aren't a lot of bad spots. Sometimes there aren't very many choices, and then I would suggest going to a different vegetable or fruit.
Yeah.
And trying to choose what's in season is always helpful too. But once fruits and vegetables are cut up, chopped, or cooked, they should be refrigerated in containers so that you can use them. You want to wrap vegetables in a moist paper towel or a thin cotton cloth to keep them in the refrigerator. This will make veggies last longer. But you also want to make sure that you're not washing them too far in advance before you're eating them, because then that moisture will cause them to go bad more quickly. So you want to be careful. They do have some of those containers that have kind of a bottom to them where the water can drip through. And those do work. They're kind of expensive. You don't need to do that. A lot of times if I have strawberries or something that I'm going to use the next day, I'll put a paper towel in the bottom.
Yeah.
That kind of works just as well. But you don't want to keep them in there too long if you've already washed them, because they will go bad more quickly.
I try to wash stuff just before I'm gonna use it, but I like the fruit idea because you can portion it out into little containers, so you can just grab like a little bowl of berries, which is nice. Yeah.
You can store herbs, however, if you wash, say you have dill or parsley, not basil. Basil, you kind of, basil is the best if you put it in a glass of water and just keep it on your countertop. That'll last a lot longer. If you keep it just laying on the countertop, it gets droopy really quickly. But for the other herbs, you can wash them and put them in a paper towel and even an open Ziploc bag and keep them in your fridge for a good several days before. And then when you pull them out, that paper towel's kind of kept them moist, but also keeps them from spoiling or getting mold too fast. So
We also put them in a little ball jar, one of those small ones, just like as like a little vase kind of in the refrigerator.
yeah.
But
yeah.
like the basil would get black, wouldn't it? if
Yeah,
it's in
you
the
can't do
refrigerator?
basil, but you
Yeah.
can do some of the others, especially parsley,
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're cutting up a head, like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, those you can do like 3 or 4 days ahead, but sometimes I kind of agree with Nancy, if possible, kind of wait, because the Brussels sprouts are gonna get a little brown. They're not quite as appealing. If they're fresh, they're gonna be, have good crunch to them too. Peppers, cucumbers, squash can be cut 2 days ahead. Root vegetables, 2 to 3 days in advance. Start your root vegetables like potatoes, turnips, parsnips. They darken pretty soon after you cut them. If you're using them like the next day, you can keep them in a pot where they're covered with water. But I wouldn't do it any longer than that.
Sometimes people do a lot of that meal prep and meal planning. If they have busy lives and they're working and they've got families, that's a nice convenience for them to chop things up. But if you're not in that situation and you're home and you like to just mess around in the kitchen, it can be very relaxing to just do your cutting and kind of get in your little Zen mode. So these tips Mary's mentioning are helpful for those busy families who are, trying to get a meal on the table, and then working too.
Yeah, and frozen, don't leave out frozen vegetables because those are very nutritious. They usually take them right from the field and freeze them, so you've got a lot of good nutrition there. So that's also a good idea.
Yeah, so there are some vegetables that should not go in the refrigerator. Number one is tomatoes. Don't do it. Because I don't know, they just kind of get starchy a little bit and lose their good flavor. So just keep them on the counter. Onions, potatoes, winter squash like the butternut and acorn squash, sweet potatoes, bananas, and persimmons. Those are things that you can leave on the counter. You can have your own little system. They sell things at Home Goods, like a 2-tiered thing where you can, keep them all in one area so they're not all over the place. And then some shortcut saving tips. So maybe you do need that extra time for things. What Mary was saying is the frozen vegetables can be really helpful that way. And a lot of them have those frozen steam type bags where you just pop it in the microwave and cook it, or the rice packets we were talking about, the frozen ones. You can get little individual containers of quinoa or brown rice that just need to be microwaved. That's a nice convenience. And you can get those little individual packets of tuna fish too. So those are nice because then they are, the ones that aren't frozen would be then shelf stable. So it's not taking up all your freezer space. But I always read the label to make sure it's not got a bunch of stuff added to it. If it's just like quinoa or brown rice and that's about it, fine. But you don't want all these other seasonings and stuff because then it becomes more like a processed food.
So planning is key, and here are some breakfast and lunch menu items. you want to make sure you're getting protein. So adding protein foods like plain Greek yogurt, nuts on oatmeal, peanut butter toast or on eggs. A lot of times I'll recommend peanut butter and oatmeal, especially if you have if you're using a low fiber. And some people look at me funny, but it's delicious. And it's sometimes we don't think about adding that, but that's a great way to use it. And then you know, kind of rotate. A lot of times I'll recommend like a grain one day, eggs one day, and then maybe yogurt one day, so that you're getting all of those different plants, but also a variety of foods. And then some other sample options are adding your fruit to your Greek yogurt, but you could also add nuts or even quinoa or other foods, oatmeal. You can make it with low-fat milk instead of water. Add your dried fruit and nuts. Try overnight oats. Some people say they don't like overnight oats because they're cold. And so I always say, well, heat them up.
Yeah, exactly.
So especially if it's in a little ball jar, it's easy to put it right in the microwave. It's already in a glass container. Just take the lid off and eat them warm. That's fine too. Some lunch examples: tuna salad on a bed of lettuce with tomato and cucumber. Don't forget your fresh herbs. Just throw those in whenever you can. Now is the time. Homemade soup with fresh fruit, half a turkey sandwich with fresh fruit or salad. And then for dinner, trying to be creative. Make sure we've got that beautiful picture of the rainbow there just to remind us to eat for color. And check your plate for protein, vegetable, grain, fruit, and dairy. Try to get those whole foods like we've been talking about. Whenever we come here to make a recipe for you, we always see on the counter our tomatoes, our lettuce, our rice, and that's what we try to help you to be able to cook with those as well. And then make a list of meal options and post them to your phone or to the fridge so that you kind of know. I like to do like 4 or 5 meals per week and then leave some flexibility for grabbing food here and there. Consult your recipe books and yeah, make sure maybe put this rainbow on your fridge.
Have you all had avocado toast before? Yeah. When you think of it, it's so simple. You could do a nice whole grain toast and then, spread on some avocado. Some people even get the little container of guacamole and use that. And then, cook up an egg. It could be any type of egg, really. And then a little spinach leaves and some tomato. And sometimes we will put a little everything but the bagel seasoning on it. But Mary and I did it together at the Delmar Cancer Center for the staff during Nutrition Month. And we made 72 servings of avocado toast, and it was a big hit. And that was when eggs were hard to get. So that was quite a thing, but everyone loved it, and we'll do it again sometime. But
it is a great breakfast or lunch
right.
idea. And even for dinner, it's simple.
Yeah.
You can, those little guacamole containers are nice if you just are making for 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to plan out exactly if the avocado is ready or if it's, sitting in there and it's like really too squishy. Those you can get and put them in your fridge easily. Yeah.
Wasn't it last week I had to cook the avocado? And that was Erin gave us, she looked it up real quick, like, we all learned something new tonight. So
that's right.
That was fun.
For those of you that are new at home.
Yeah.
Last week, our avocados weren't quite ripe. And
not at all.
Actually hard as a rock.
Right.
And we baked them at 200 degrees for
250, I think it was, wrapped in foil.
Wrapped in foil for 45 minutes to an hour.
We did an hour just because you can even do it less if it's not that rock hard. But when you check it, it was still rock hard. So then when we took them out and opened them, they were brown. But then when you cut, it was bright green inside and it was cut like butter. Yeah. So it saved the day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
Yeah. So there are, little tricks you can do with food. Look up on your phone. It's very helpful. So just moving on, Living Well Cancer Resources, there's like yoga and fitness, there are nutrition classes, there's art classes, everything is at your disposal. You have what, like 3 years, you say, or? Yeah, to use it from the day you're diagnosed. So they just try to keep a limit so it makes room for more people, but it's like a little sanctuary here. It's beautiful and it's, very peaceful. So we'd love for you to use that. We have brochures that show all the programs, and then we'll have a fall brochure coming out again soon. And we just want to say congratulations for completing Being Well and being here with us. And you're welcome to, join us again. So utilize the recipe corner. There's a lot of good recipes that we've done, so they're all tried and true. And we're going to move over and
Nice. Okay, so here is our eggplant parmesan, and it looks delicious, and everything is kind of melted and all combined in there. So
I'm going to keep your phone.
we're going to be sampling that in a few minutes. But for those of you that are at home, thanks so much for joining us, and have a great night.
Thank you.